welcome back. Charlie Carter joins us, and with HomeBridge Builders, custom building and remodeling. And, we were talking about the amount of people who are out maybe buying houses or maybe can't because maybe the house isn't worth enough for them to sell and then move up to the next one. But more importantly, sometimes you can change the house that, that you live in into your dream home. And since we've been talking about finances and money for most of the day and QE3 and where the government's getting their money and how it's getting down to all the people, Charlie, I thought we could talk a little bit about, just how people are funding maybe these renovations and funding the ability to remodel their home. And how are you, sir?
I am well. Thank you very much. Glad to be here again. It is a great day out. And so we're, still plugging away here in the remodeling world.
That's good.
And staying after it. And it seems to be picking up. People are, not with necessarily the QE3 news of 5 years down the road or what might happen, and obviously hope that doesn't. But here and there.
For those of you who are listening, Glenn basically said we're going to have the end of the financial world in a few years.
Go buy a gun.
Yeah, post up.
You need to dig in. But assuming that doesn't happen, and hopefully it doesn't, the way that people are going about funding and what's been happening over the last few years has been. It's always the question of should we move or should we stay and remodel and improve. It's always kind of been the back and forth that couples have about what to do with the home. And we like to help them run the numbers and find out if, what it costs to stay and improve. And it's easy for them to go figure out what it would cost to buy house X. They just go look at them and see that this is what it would be. So, but when you're really digging into remodeling and renovating and adding on or whatever it is that you're thinking about doing, how does one go about funding it? And there's really only a couple of ways that you can do it. And what we've been doing over the last few years has been a lot smaller projects where people are really paying cash. They're just funding it out of, the savings that they have, or some people liquidate some assets, sell some stocks, which has helped, that now that the market's back up and people feel, okay, we're kind of back, where we were 5 years ago. So they liquidate some stuff and combine that with a bit of cash. And that's, that's one way, which is what we've been doing a lot of. Now we're seeing and talking to people about a lot bigger projects than sort of that cash available $40,000 to sort of $70,000 type project. We're talking to a lot of people about $150,000, $200,000, $300,000 renovation projects, which are significant. And people stay when they do those projects because they really like their house. They really like their neighborhood. It's close to work, the church, whatever. It can be any number of reasons. And so then when you get into bigger projects, how does one go about funding those? And there's really two ways, is that you can do it based on the existing equity in the house. What's the house worth today versus what you owe against it? And is there enough equity there, or a combination of some of that available equity, again, with cash, bringing that to the table. And then the more complex methodology by which it can be done is future value funding, where you can, you have a house that's worth $500,000 today and you owe $400,000 on it, but you want to do a $300,000 project. And it makes sense for you to do that. You really like to do it. But you don't have the equity to do it and don't have the cash to do it. So you can combine cash with a future value loan.
Kind of known as a rehab loan.
Rehab loan, future value or as complete value is like, what will the house be worth the day the project's done? Well, we're going to do this project. It'll be worth $700,000. You owe that $400 against it. There's $300 in equity there, but you can't borrow all of that, but you can get a big chunk of it, and then you can merge that with some cash that you already have. And that's how we're doing these bigger projects with the eroded equity that, people have lost, paper numbers, but they're still the numbers that everyone looks at.
It's not just paper when it's your numbers.
Right. It's based on what the bank says it's worth,
sure,
or what that appraiser says that it's worth now, and what it'll be worth the day it's complete.
As you see people going through the process of remodeling, when it was borrowing in the home equity lines or whatnot, especially maybe 5 years ago, 7 years ago, I remember we'd do a lot of them, and people were so much less concerned with what things cost. Oh, well, I'll just do it. I'll just remodel, and the house will go up in value. It won't make as big of a difference. Are people much different in the way they're approaching pricing now than they were 5 to 7 years ago?
They are certainly more conscious with the small decisions. What's the countertop going to be? What is the appliance package going to be? How much are the cabinets? The little things that do add up at the end of the day. Do we put in that extra skylight or not? But the thing that I do find, at least with a lot of clients that we work with, is that they still recognize value, and that they don't want to buy just the cheapest thing. They want good stuff, but they're looking for the value. What's a what's a good value granite countertop that we can get? We don't have to show off and go get the most expensive blue Bahia that we can find. Let's just get a good value one, that's readily available. So those are the kind of decisions. And then they're giving back a few little bells and whistles here. We won't get the glazing on the cabinets, and that'll save us, $3,000. Okay, great. That's fine.
Sounds like a good way to save $3,000.
Right. Well, it depends on what you want. And then we do things and we try to, I refer to it as strategic disproportionate spending. It's you kind of set a baseline for the cost of everything in your renovation project. And example I use a lot is say we're going to use GE profile appliances across the board, and that kind of sets the point of where you're going to be. Or you could move up. We're doing Wolf ovens and Sub-Zero as the baseline. Everything's going to be kind of at this level. But if you pick like that GE profile baseline, and then in a certain place or certain places, you jump up off the norm, and you might buy $1,000 sink because everyone sees it. It's got a lot of pizzazz to it. You might go with $30 or $40 a square foot tile for the backsplash, but you only need 28 square feet of it. It's not like you're doing a half acre.
So you're dressing it up a little bit, even though you're doing some value engineering.
Right. We really try to help people with that. Countertops example. If we're doing a kitchen, a real common thing is that at the island we'll do a kind of a pow bang countertop for the island, but for the perimeter cabinets we'll do something much simpler. To bring the cost way down at that location because it's not as prominent as the island.
Sure. Well, I mean, it certainly seems that you would be able to, it's dressing. It's like putting lights on a tree. I mean, there's certain things you dress up, and that's a good way to save money because you can probably spend a lot of money on things that people don't even see, but then, of course, you get a little higher quality.
Yeah, exactly. And then depending on the house, you have all these what I call very unsexy dollars that you have to spend. If you have an older home, you may have to spend a couple $1,000 to upgrade your electrical service. And what I always tell people is that that's extremely unsexy money because the first time your friends come over and the kitchen's done, I assure you're not going to run them out to the garage and point to the panel box and go, look, $2,000. You're going to be showing them the countertop and the backsplash and the under cabinet lights that you did, but not the $3,000 that you put in the garage to make those lights work.
Right. Well, not only do you have the movie star name, but you know how to spend sexy money on remodeling. Charlie Carter, we do appreciate having you from HomeBridge Builders. We do have to go to break. When we come back, everybody's come back to the mic, including Heather Moore. We're going to talk a little bit more about picking the right people to work with. We'll be right back.